And then we started a series just a few weeks ago here on Easter called Alive Again. And this one, we're really kind of looking at what does eternal life look like and how does it work. And last weekend, I said pastor. He'll soon be a pastor in about a month and a half. But River is on his way. He's one of our residents right now. He works with our students. He did a fantastic job talking to us about shame and kind of where we can take our burdens, our difficulties, how that looks to kind of bring those to Jesus. If you missed that conversation, fantastic job that he did. And we want to pick that conversation up a little bit today and continue to look at what does real life really look like? How does it work? And our culture has a lot of misunderstandings about what life is really like. And if you kind of listen to our culture, you're going to hear all kinds of offers and pitches on what life, kind of where it can be found, where the good life can be found, and what it's all about. And we want to take a look and say, is that true? Is that really what life is all about? And what we're going to see today is a pretty powerful story that Jesus is going to tell, and it's pretty loaded. And I would just say this, if you're here today and you're investigating Jesus today especially, I think this is true often here at Grace, you're going to find kind of a snapshot of what Jesus is like, what God's heart for you and for me is like, and you're going to get a better understanding of how he sees us and kind of what he wants for us. If you're a follower of Jesus and you're here today, I think what you're going to find is maybe a kind of a remembering how God's heart works and how sometimes that's even challenging to how we love. All right, and so we'll take a look at that, dive in, and it's been a super helpful and challenging passage of scripture for me to work through this week. Excited to walk you guys through it. So we're going to be in Luke chapter 15. If you have a Bible, you want to go ahead and open that if you have one with you. Luke chapter 15. And if you don't have a Bible and you want one, there's some right underneath the chairs there, so you can reach forward in the row ahead of you, grab a Bible, open it up to Luke 15, and you can use that today, and then you can actually take that with you. We'd love to give that to you as a gift, so you can walk out of here and nobody will tase you, right? So just take it, and it's yours. It's good, okay? So Luke chapter 15, and here's kind of what Luke is setting up, okay? He's kind of putting us, we're going to get in kind of the room where Jesus tells this story, and the context always matters a ton, but this, especially in this passage, and here's what Luke's going to tell us. Okay, Luke 15:1, he says this, "Now the tax collectors and sinners were all gathering around to hear Jesus. But the Pharisees and the teachers of the law muttered, 'This man welcomes sinners and he eats with them.'" Okay, these two verses powerfully set the kind of the frame of how the rest of this story is going to unfold. So here's a few things you need to know. In this culture and time, tax collectors and sinners are people that are going to be disconnected from the religious community, rejected by them, and they would have been seen as people that are like not close to God at all. So the fact that they're the ones gathering around Jesus is fascinating. It's interesting. People who were far from God is fascinating. They were drawn to Jesus like crazy, but the Pharisees, those have been the religious leaders of the time, or they sometimes are called the teachers of the law, or a little different group of people, but also religious leaders. They are frustrated by this because the people that they would have kind of purposely pushed away are now being drawn to God, and they're coming close to Jesus, and they're frustrated that Jesus, this religious leader, this rabbi, this teacher, is associating himself with those people, and that's how it would have felt. Right, those people. And Jesus, right, like in that culture, to eat with somebody is to kind of give approval to them, to say, hey, we're good. Like I'll sit down and eat with you. So that's the context. There's frustration, there's fascination, there's a lot going on. And then what Jesus is going to do, like as we go through Luke 15, let me kind of fast forward it through you. He's going to take us through a couple different little stories, and then he's going to land us on a big story. Okay, so here's what he does. He kind of has this build up. He tells a little story about a guy that's got 100 sheep, and he says, hey man, if you got 100 sheep and you lose one, won't you leave the 99 and you go get that lost one? And when you find the one that you've lost, aren't you going to rejoice and be so excited and celebrate the fact that you found what you lost? All right, then he tells a story about a lady who she's got 10 coins, she loses one. Everybody understands that money is important, right? She loses her coin, she discovers her coin, Then she gathers her friends together and they celebrate the fact that she found her lost coin. And then, right, so you go from 100, you go to 10, and now you go down to 2. And there's a dad that has 2 sons, and now the story gets a little more intense. It gets more personal. It gets closer to home. And this is going to be a story of a dad with 2 sons. And the dad is really going to be kind of in the role of God in the story. And we're going to see how the story plays out. We're going to see how God really views us and how he interacts with us as people, as his children. Here we go. Pick the story up here in verse 11, and here's what Luke tells us. He says, Jesus continued, there's a man who had 2 sons. The younger one said to his father, "Father, give me my share of the estate." So he divided the property between them. Okay, so here's what you have to know at this time, and a little bit true even today, but especially then, that if an inheritance was in play in a family, if a son were to go to his dad and say that, hey, give me my share of the estate, basically what he's saying to his dad is, hey, Dad, I wish you were dead, give me the money. Okay, that's about that insulting. I'm good on relationship. I'll sacrifice that. Just give me the inheritance. Right? I just want what I want. I want the money, and I'm going to go kind of do what I want to do with it. Deeply insulting. Okay, this would have been a bad thing for sure in that family relationship. What's fascinating as we go into the story is the dad does it. Right? He gives him the inheritance. And right away, I want us to see this, that right as the father is thinking, the father is here, right, in the, kind of the middle here, that the son is looking at where he finds life. And a couple things that he determines is that life is not found in relationship with the father. Life is somewhere out here. Life is somewhere out here, away from the father. I'm not going to find real life here, back home with Dad. I want what Dad has to offer me, and I want to go do what I want. Okay, it's kind of that's a little bit the picture of this younger brother, and this right, it's kind of the reality. And here's the thing we can take away. I think even as we jump into the conversation, what's revealed here in the son is really this: that if you want to know what you really believe, you want to look to where you run to find life. This son in the story is running to find life somewhere out here, somewhere away from the father. And here's the thing, even today, if you're here and you're like, I'm just trying to figure out what I believe, if you want to know what you believe, all you got to do is look for where you run to find life. How you would answer this question is going to reveal a lot of what I really believe. No matter what you say, right? You might say, hey, man, you have a statement of faith and you'd sign off on it, or you're a part of church, or you do whatever. I'm sure you believe all those things. But really, what I really believe is, if I had blank, that would solve all my problems. My life would be complete if this were to happen. If I were to find the right person, if that girl said yes, if I hit the lottery, right? If it all played out the way, that circumstance often is how it would play. And the assumption is, if I had that thing or that person or that scenario, that's where real life is. And it seems like the son has something like that in his head. Man, if I had my dad's money, then I would have the good life. And we can be challenged with some of that same set of questions. What is it that we think that if we had it, life would be there? The good life, right? And that people, here's a good test to see what you believe about it. If you know people that have the thing that you kind of dream about or fantasize about or want, if you think about them, do you ever answer a question like this in your head? Man, that person, if they have all that or they have that scenario, there's no way they have any real problems, right? Like, man, if people that have that house or that car or that job or that wife or husband or that body or that blah, blah, I mean, they made it. So even if things are really terrible, at least they have blank. Kind of sounds like that. You ever do that in your head? Right? If not, you're just lying. We all do that, right? We all do versions of that. I remember doing this as a younger man. I remember looking at people with a big house. I remember thinking, I mean, even if their life was really bad, they're driving home to that big house. How bad can it be? Yeah, it could be really bad. Right? I think it could be really bad. The reality is they just live in a place where there's a lot of construction material. That's it. They can still get cancer and have marital problems and have a drug addiction and have you name it. And that's going to be true of everybody because real life isn't found in what I have or what I get or in any other relationship. We're gonna bump into this, right? It's not found in getting dad's money and running and do what I want with it. It's found somewhere different, and we're going to see that it's found in life with the Father, right? But the son doesn't know that just yet, and so he says, Dad, give me the money, let me run. So here's how the story unfolds. It says, not long after that, the younger son got together all he had. He set off for a distant country, and there he squandered his wealth in wild living. After he had spent everything, there was a severe famine in that whole country, and he began to be in need. So he went and he hired himself out to a citizen of that country who sent him to his field to feed the pigs. He longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything. Okay, so here's what happens. He's got some kind of picture in his mind, most likely, of what he's going to do with himself. And somehow he finds himself in this wild living, probably because he thought life would be found there. Right? So he takes the money he's given, probably right that dad built up over a lifetime of faithfulness in the idea of this story, and he squanders it rapidly. Okay? He goes and blows it on wild living. Right? It's our equivalent of strip clubs and blowing money on OnlyFans. Right? It's like down that road. And it's gambling, it's blah, blah. He's getting rid of all of his, and he finds himself in poverty rapidly. And now he's going to hire himself out, and this is the equivalent of rock bottom for a Jewish young man. Everybody hearing this story would know that a guy that works with the pigs, that is like as bad as it could possibly get. Okay, it's as bad as it could possibly get, and so he is at rock bottom at this point. He's at rock bottom. I thought that this would lead me somewhere. It bottomed out, and now he's starting to ask a different set of questions, and here's where the story leads. It says, when he came to his senses, he said, how many of my father's hired servants, right? Not even his brother who's back home. Now, how many of my hired servants have food to spare, and here I am starving to death? I will set out and go to my father and say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants. So he got up and he went to his father. Okay, he comes to this point where he's like, I think I went the wrong way. Okay, I went the wrong direction here. I have made a mistake. I have sinned. Right, it's deeper than a mistake. There's a reality that is setting in, and here it says he came to his senses. And here's something really important that we have to get a hold of. Okay, really important. What he does is this, right? He defines the reality of the situation. He defines the reality of the situation. Here's what he comes to a conclusion about. When he finds himself wrecking his life far from his father, in trouble, here's what he doesn't do. He doesn't make a set of excuses. He doesn't look and say, well, my life was really hard, and so that's why I've landed myself here. He doesn't look and say, well, I was bullied as a kid, and then now that's why I'm blowing my life up. What he does is he looks at where he is, and he doesn't call it a mistake. He doesn't look at it and say it's no big deal. He doesn't minimize it. What he does is he looks at the situation and he said, I have sinned. I have sinned. I've sinned against my father and I've sinned against heaven. And here's the thing I want us to make sure we get a hold of. That's actually appropriate. It's an appropriate response when he looks and says, I'm going to go back to my father, and if all I get is to be a worker in his household, I think I lost the son thing. If that's all I get, here's the heart posture of this younger son. He looks and he says, I am completely at your mercy. Whatever you want to do with me. But I'm coming to you. Right? I'm going to come back to you. He makes this decision to leave this direction, to go back into this direction. And he comes back and says, whatever I land with is fine. You guys, that's really, really important. It's really, really important that we hear that. Why? Isn't God a God of grace? And yeah, we're going to see God's grace in a minute, but not yet. Because I got to see my heart posture. I've seen in me at times, and I've seen, of course, when people that I've worked with, sometimes we want to skip this part. I want to skip the part where I'm at the mercy of the person that I've hurt or the situation that I've caused. And I want to just be restored after wild living. I want to be just restored right back to where I was. And give me, I cheated in the marriage, and now I want all the trust that I had before I cheated or before you. I blew this thing up, and I stole from him, and now I want to be trusted and entitled right back to where I used to be. See, none of that's happening in the story. In the story, the son is just broken. He's just broken. And he says, I'd rather be at home in the mercy of my father, and I'll take whatever he gives me. That matters. Folks, that matters. He defines the reality of the situation. I'm in trouble. I'm in sin. I've done wrong. And now I don't have a leg to stand on to pound the table and be entitled, so I'm going to show up and ask for mercy. That is right. That is right. And anything less than that, I'm not sure we're there yet. I'm not sure we're there yet. Critical. Now the story goes on. Watch the response of the father, because it's beautiful, right? Here's where he knows his father's mercy, and then what he's going to do, he's going to trust the father's response. That doesn't mean he expects anything. He expects mercy, but he doesn't expect rank. He doesn't expect position. He doesn't expect to get all that he had before. He just puts himself into the hands of his father. And here's what the father does. It says, but while he was still a long way off, the father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son. He threw his arms around him. He kissed him. The son said to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. And he meant it from the heart. He meant it from the heart. The father is running towards the son. Here's what the passage says, that the father saw him from a long way off. He was scanning the horizon looking for his boy, hoping that he would turn and find his way back. And when he sees him, what does he do? An older man in this culture, they would typically have a robe, right? And what they would do is they typically, you wouldn't let your legs be showing. That would be an undignified thing to have happen. Right? It's part of why he wear the robe. And what he did is to run. They would never run in this ancient culture. He'd have to gather his robe up and kind of waddle out to meet his son, okay? It's a great picture, right? Then an undignified thing to do. Anybody saw an older man doing that would be like, what's on fire, right? I mean, that would not make any sense. He forgets how stupid he looks, genuinely would have looked dumb, and he's running out to his son out of compassion for him. And everybody knows in the culture, if you would have done what this son did, his life would have been at risk because the community would have rejected him. There would have been a just response from the community that at a minimum would have pushed him out and rejected him, and at max put him in his life in serious jeopardy. The father goes out and meets him, runs out to him, and he puts his arm around him, kisses him, and it's a statement to those watching to say, he's with me, it's okay. I've got him. We're good. I know, but I'm forgiving. Massive statement made by the Father. The compassion of God the Father to run towards the sinner that has made their way back to God, has turned from their course of whatever wild living they have embraced, and now he's going to come and he humbles himself and he meets the son before he even makes it to the house. The father said to the servants, quick, bring the best robe, put it on him, put a ring on his finger, sandals on his feet. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. He says, for this son of mine was dead, and now he's alive. He's alive again. He was lost, and now he's found. So they began to celebrate. The fattened calf would be reserved for a massive festival, a massive celebration, and that's what this is. Because he was gone, and now he's back. He was dead, and now he's alive. right? And the Father goes big in his celebration. And here's what you need to hear today. If you're here today and you know that you have drifted from God, you know that you're on the wrong path today, that you've done things and you would look and say, man, I feel like that younger son that even as you're talking, Ryan, I know that I have done wrong. I've sinned against heaven and earth. I've sinned against God. I've sinned against people in my life. Here's what I want you to hear. I want you to hear it loud and clear. The Father doesn't just tolerate your return, he celebrates it. He doesn't just tolerate your return. He doesn't just look and say, yeah, you kind of messed it up, but I guess we'll take you back. He runs to you with joy. The Bible says he's eager to forgive. Eager to forgive. He's running toward you today. Really? He's not saying, get your life together and then maybe I'll let you back in the family. He's already on his way to you. He's already on his way to you. As soon as your heart turns towards him, he's on his way to you. He's drawing you into relationship. You need to know that. He doesn't just tolerate you, he celebrates you. Now, the story shifts, and really, probably the major reason why this story was told begins to show up. Meanwhile, the older son was in the field. When he came near the house, he heard music and dancing, so he called one of the servants and asked him what was going on. Your brother has come, he replied, and your father has killed the fattened calf because he has him back safe and sound. The older brother became angry and refused to go in. So his father went out and pleaded with him. But he answered his father, look, all these years I have been slaving for you, never disobeyed your orders, yet you never even gave me a young goat so I could celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours who has squandered your property with prostitutes comes home, you killed the fattened calf for him. All of a sudden, all of this emotion and ugly is going to show up in the heart and in the mind of the older brother who has been in the house, right, with the father so far. He has looked and said, I'm out. I don't want to be in this celebration. I don't want to join in it. And you have to put yourself maybe in his shoes. He has done the right thing. He has externally kept it together. He didn't go blow himself up with he didn't squander dad's money and the family inheritance and tarnish his good name. What was he doing? He was doing what dad wanted to do externally, and on the inside, something else was going on. Something ugly. But maybe something that you and I would resonate with, right? He was hurt, sinned against by the brother as well, felt slighted for his father, and now would have to deal with unforgiveness, with bitterness, with jealousy. And the older son, we see, actually thought life was something that he didn't have when he had life all along. He was close to the father, could have been near him. Here's what the father responds with. He says, my son, you're always with me. Everything I have is yours. But we had to celebrate and be glad because this brother of yours was dead and he's alive again. He's lost and now he's found. Son, here's what I want us to see. The father, right, he goes out to the son who has removed himself from the house, right? He has said, you know what, I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to be close to you, Dad. I reject your ways. I want to be out here. And the father goes out to him and he pleads with him. He pleads with him. He calls him, invites him to have his heart match the heart of the Father. Don't you see that we had to celebrate this? Can't you see that when people come back to me and they rejoin the family and they're lost and now they're found, that's a moment to celebrate, not to become angry? And what happened in the heart of this son is all of this ugly, it came to the surface. It was there all along, but it's surfaced now, and now it's revealed for what it is. And here's something that we need to hear today, because a bunch of us have been in church for a while. Some of us have been around the things of God. We're close to the things of God. Some of us are active. And here's an important piece we need to grab hold of and make sure we know is this. It's possible to be close to the things of God and far from his heart. Okay? It's possible to be close to the things of God and far from his heart. I can sit in church every week and seethe with hate and anger. Right? That's possible. I can look out and say, yeah, Jesus, yes, Jesus is good for me. I celebrate him. And you know what I really want? God, nuke those people over there, right? Senator, hey, Ryan, why don't you preach hard against sin? I like it when you go hard against wild living. Yeah, bring it. Give it to them. Tell them how wrong it is. How come we want to go hard against that? Is it wrong? Of course it's wrong. Is premarital sex wrong? Absolutely, it's wrong. Is pornography wrong? Absolutely. Is a homosexual lifestyle wrong? Absolutely. Is abortion wrong? Absolutely. Is racism wrong? Absolutely. And the heart of the Father is this. The person that has lived that way, has acted that way, what his heart for them is this, that they would turn back to him, that they would find forgiveness and healing. Hear me, folks, there's a day coming. There's a day coming when Jesus will return, and the time of mercy will have passed. There is a day of justice. Here's what I know about that day. Nobody's going to sound proud that day. Nobody's going to be beating their chest that day. Okay? All of us are going to be humbled before the reality of a holy God. So here's what I want to hear. As I see myself, I know this is how you are. I see myself in both brothers. Okay, I see myself in both brothers. There's times when I probably believed the lie. I lived in this lie for a good chunk of my life. And sometimes I'm still drawn to believe it and to buy the deceit of it. That life is found somewhere out there, away from the things of God and away from his heart. Some of us sound like that. And some of us sound like this. Why don't I get what I want? Why do I have to forgive? They hurt me. Lord, I'd rather you nuke them than forgive them. Those people. See, the challenge of this story is that God's heart is for all people. He longs for all of us to find our way back to him, and he's coming out, pleading with, running to all of those who he hopes to bring into the family. Those who have done the thing that you think is unthinkable, he's willing to forgive. In your spiritual pride and your self-righteousness makes your heart further from him than this son when he turned and began to run back. See that? Real life is found here in the home, in relationship with the Father, and the story ends with a question mark really that is posed to the Pharisees and the religious leaders. Will you make your way back to him? Will you make your heart match God's heart? Will you be marked by mercy, not by self-righteousness and judgment? See, what God is doing is he is calling people to himself. And in this moment, the tax collectors would have seen themselves squarely in this seat. They would have understood what's available to them, the compassion and the grace of God. The Pharisees and the teachers of the law would have seen themselves in this seat, and they would have seen the kindness and the plea of God to move back to it. Now, they're going to reject that, and that's their story. But for us, the invitation is on the table to soften our heart, to look and say, man, if God would work among that group of people, maybe a way to see ourselves in this story is to maybe ask some questions. Here's just a few that I have. I said this, is it time to make the walk back home? Or is it time to come back into the house? Make that walk back in. And here's how we might see ourselves. Is there anybody in your life right now, if you're a follower of Jesus, who you would look at and say, what I want for that person is God to get rid of them much more than to forgive them? That if you found out that they showed up here to worship with you after what they did or after how they lived, would you be able to rejoice? If their story was on the screen, the baptism screen, that person who burned you and hurt you, who the news that you listened to rails against, if they had a transformation story that we all clap for and celebrate, would you be able to join in the house and celebrate with them? Or would you be seething with anger that they didn't get theirs? This is the challenge of this. And man, there's times when I'm on both sides of that because, man, once you're hurt, once it's personal, you feel, and I have felt, justified in withholding forgiveness, in withholding mercy. And Jesus would look and say, that's not, my Father isn't like that. He'll always meet the one who is choosing humility, choosing brokenness. I'll always meet them with mercy. Can you see the mercy of God on this side of the board and the mercy of God on this side of the board? The pleading of the self-righteous and the forgiveness of those who had wandered into wild living. Wherever you find yourself today, would you look at what real life really is, and would you choose to believe that at the end of the day, life with God, living life with him, near him, our hearts matching his heart, is the only place a deep and satisfying and real life is really found. It's not in whatever that thing I think that I want is. It's definitely not in a hardness of heart or a self-righteousness. Can we move towards the very heart of God for others that he has had for us? Would you bow your heads and close your eyes, and the band will come out and lead us. We'll wrestle with this here together. Father, today we especially want to say thank you for your mercy. I thank you for your mercy on me, a sinner. That you would come to my rescue. That you would move towards me in my wild living. And you would draw me to your home and to your heart. I thank you that is available for each and every one of us today. God, forgive us for when we are hard-hearted, when we refuse to offer the forgiveness that we have received. when we stand above others and look down. God, forgive us for that. Help us to join in the celebration of the lost being found, of the dead coming to life. Lord, would you help our hearts to match your heart, that we can enjoy life that is truly life. Lord, help us with this. Meet us here even now.